Kappa League TV.
We are focusing on our HBCU college system because the HBCUs are one of the greatest secrets of American success that nobody really talks about. Our HBCUs have created more PhDs and MDs than any other system in American education, and is actually responsible for around 30 to 40% of all Black professionals across the country. So the HBCU experience and the HBCU education is the gateway for a young Black kid, be it male or female, to have access to a college education that will get them prepared for professional life. And with so many Black professionals already in the system that have the HBCU pedigree, when a young person comes out to an HBCU, there's a certain kind of a brotherhood or sisterhood that's waiting for them because they have all those HBCU alumni there in the professional space already. So we feel like that's a totally underappreciated and underutilized resource for the African American community. And so we're making a big push toward that from now until 2032. And so that's pretty much what I wanted to tell you guys. I'm so happy that you were able to come out tonight and give us an opportunity to share some of this information with you. And right now, I'd like to turn it over to my good friend, Troy Johnson, who wants to tell you a little bit about how big companies look at HBCUs and utilize them to find tremendous talent from the Black community. Troy?
Hey, JJ, thank you very much. And happy J5 for those who do not know. Today, January 5th, is the birthday of Kappa Alpha Psi. So we call it J5. So happy Founders Day to all of the Kappas, noops on the line. So let's talk about HBCUs and why does it make sense to even go to a historical Black college or university? You know, I grew up in Virginia, and me being around so many HBCUs growing up, being a high school student, we kind of looked at going to a HBCU as going to a big high school. We did not really appreciate the value of going to a Black university. They show all of the sports and things of that nature. Big white schools like University of Virginia, University of North Carolina, Kentucky, Louisville, and all of that good jazz. So all of the kids in my neighborhood is kind of aspired to go to a white university. And that's where I started out. I was a basketball player, a point guard at Virginia Tech. And then eventually I transferred when I got relegated to the bench and did not get starting time. I said, I better concentrate on this engineering thing. And so I transferred, concentrated on aerospace engineering, and got my aerospace engineering degree from Tuskegee University. I am at my 25th year at the Boeing Company, and I have been a manager, a hiring manager of engineering since 2009. So I just wanted to share why Black students, male and female, should really consider an HBCU over a white university like University of Washington and Washington State and others. So when I go out looking for candidates for engineering, and I'm the manager of a cabin systems engineering group, we do electronics and seats and all of that good jazz. We go specifically to HBCUs looking for Black talent. And so I did not realize that growing up, and I wanted to share that with the community online. Most Fortune 500 companies, from the Boeings, the Microsoft, Amazon, Caterpillar, Adobe, you have it. They go to Black universities looking for Black talent. They have alumni from HBCUs in those Fortune 500 companies that have programs to reach back out to the HBCUs around the country to get that talent. And there's that kinship that JJ talked about a few minutes ago. So you all out there that are, African Americans should really consider that. And then the other things to consider going to HBCU, the college class sizes from going to Virginia Tech, even back in the day when I was there some 20 some years ago, the classroom sizes were 400 or 500 people, where in the HBCU, the class sizes are 30 people, and you actually get a chance to know your professors. I mean, for me, I even had professors write letter of recommendations for me to go to graduate school. So you really get a chance to know your college professors, be in an environment where you can grow and learn and really learn the techniques and the studies that you're there for. And then just to mention meeting other Black students from all across the United States. Me growing up in Virginia, going all the way down to Alabama to Tuskegee. And then I met kids from not only in Alabama, but Florida and DC, LA, Chicago, Texas, you name it. You meet other Black kids from all over the country, and there's no substitute for being that age, meeting kids across the United States and the contacts and the people that you have a lifelong friendship and relationship with. And so I know my friends who went to white colleges, and I do have those where I went to Virginia Tech and then I have gone to Tuskegee. It's a whole different experience going to a white school homecoming, which my friends who went to those do not really go to. But all of my friends and fraternity brothers that graduated from Black schools, they go back to homecoming. And I think I have a few people that can attest to that on the call today. So I just wanted to just give a shout out to the HBCUs being a hiring manager for engineering. And I just want you guys to really listen to the presentation that Greg is about to put on. He's going to talk about not only Ivy League schools, but HBCUs, but I would highly recommend you guys to consider HBCUs. I tell everyone, if you have an opportunity to go to a HBCU, go. Your competition level, you're competing with peers. You're not competing with these private school kids. You do not have to deal with the racism as much when it comes to studying and learning your curriculum. And all of the big companies are going there looking for you specifically. So when we go to white schools, we look for candidates. When I go to a Black school, I'm looking for Black kids. So that's it for me, JJ. Back to you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. So next, one of the things that we were doing with Kappa League is we really began to concern ourselves with college retention. So the concept is probably about 95 to 98% of our kids go to college. But how many of them are able to stay in college? And largely that has to do with access to finances. And so as I was kind of looking around and really digging into this, I realized that we had an expert in finding money in untraditional places. And that's when I reached out to my brother, Greg Dawson. And I said, hey, Greg, would it be possible to put together a presentation that I could show to the fraternity about how we can start to teach our kids about where to find the money that other people don't know about. So basically, there are millions of dollars around the country that never get claimed by kids that are going to school. There are some scholarships in different areas that nobody even applies for. And sometimes that scholarship money will just sit there. And so what Greg has done is he's come up with a system based on how his daughters went about finding the money to help us to understand that there's a process that we can go to actually go out and find money that other people are not claiming. And so I want to introduce you all to Greg Dawson. And Greg, why don't you take it from here?
All right, brother JJ, thank you very much. That's Edward Gregory Dawson Jr. Please call me Greg. Just so happy to be here to share some information. My daughters Jordan and Jaden are on this call as well, so they will take some practical questions and answers from the students that are on at the end of the presentation. But like JJ and Troy said before me, everything they said was right on point. Just a little bit about my um, background with this prior to going into the presentation. I am class of 1989, Tuskegee University. Went there on a football scholarship, actually. And it was the best experience of my life. As Troy talks about that homecoming experience, I've been out of school. Well, I entered Tuskegee in '84, so that's maybe 36 years. I think I've missed 2 homecomings in 36 years since I got there. So the experience is phenomenal. The lessons that I learned, the care that the teachers, the coaches, whatever you're involved in. I was in ROTC, got commissioned second lieutenant, had a 22-year military career that I ran simultaneous with my current 31-year federal government civilian service, where I work for Headquarters Department of the Army as well. So just a plethora of things that the HBCU experience prepares you for, and something they didn't mention directly, but I will, just in terms of learning how to deal with the larger world. The HBCU is going to give you those, what I call unstated lessons that you need to get out here in the work world and deal with your peers of other races and ethnicities and corporate cultures and things of that nature from the perspective of Black folks. So it's very beneficial. My daughter's a 3rd generation HBCU attendees, and my oldest will be graduating this May. So let me share my screen here and get to showing you what the program is that we put together. Let's see here. I hope this is the right one. Okay, so want to talk to you about the scholarship attainment and maintenance program that we put together. So this whole presentation, hold on one second. Okay, there we go. It's based around my experience of trying to help my daughters, Jordan and Jaden, A, get into school, B, find money for school, C, keep that money and stay in school, D, graduate, and then thing about school is it never stops. I've been working 31 years, constantly in school. I had 2 master's degrees. I'm working on a certificate now, a plethora of military schools along the way, a plethora of civilian schools along the way, continuous learning credits and everything. So you be in school for a long time and you got to always find money. This first slide that I'm just sharing with you is just kind of a synopsis of their success so that you just have a snapshot to say, hey, what he's saying to us is credible, that what he's going to tell us works. And really it's just a program and a step-by-step of the how you do. So JJ said something interesting, finding money in untraditional places. So everybody wants to apply for UNCF scholarship. Everybody wants to apply for the big corporate scholarship, Coca-Cola, what have you. One of the things we worked on was working locally out. And what I'm about to show you, this model will show you my home area of Maryland, how we worked on it, but you can apply these same principles to your local area and find a plethora of money. And this process yielded a total of 27 scholarships between my daughters, okay? Why do it? Well, JJ talked about this, wanting to share my experience with my daughters in order to support the Kappa League program. We do this through Guide Right. This is not only a form of mentoring, but a form of community service. And when I got the call from my good friend, John Marshall Jones, I was very excited to share the girls' experience that we had in this endeavor. and then make it available to you because, hey, we are the village and we need to share this information. Each one teach one and help raise each other's kids up to have the maximum success. Okay. So what's required and what do we want to do? The biggest impediment that I've seen in my years of going to school, getting kids in school, and things of that nature is coming up with the money to go to school. Also, in order to get money, hey, you kids have a part too. You have to maintain your academic rigor. You know, if you're slipping on your grades, you need some mentoring, you need some tutoring, you need to be willing to reach out for that because all that's going to help you. You know, talent-based scholarships like athletics and arts, they're going to have different standards for your academic requirements. If you're looking for merit money, that's very competitive. You got to make sure that you're in the game. And the main thing you're doing as a child is you're maintaining the grade so that the parent can then help you to find money because you'll qualify for that money. If you're not maintaining the academic rigor, you may not be competitive to qualify for that money. And it is competitive, but we want to encourage you on ways of how to get it, how to best execute in the competition to be able to be more likely to get more resources, if that makes sense. So what do? If you're not where you need to be academically, we need to work on that. People that are where they need to be academically, and I'll give you a few statistics that can't be beat. If you got a senior coming out of school, for most HBCUs, a 1,300 on the SAT or a 32 on the ACT, combined with a 3.5 GPA or above, that's going to get you full merit money. Most places. There are a few exceptions, but most places you will get that. In order to get that, there's always administrative things you have to do and documentation you have to have. So we start our journey with the FAFSA, the financial aid forms. Even if you have enough money to send your kids to school, you still got to do this because Bursar's office, they can't process anything without an annual FAFSA on file. There's a student portion to be completed. There's a parent portion to be completed. I'll provide the website right here, and we can send these out in the chat as well at the end, or an FAQ or something like that that people can get on listserv, email, or however we plan to do it. But you'll see there'll be a lot of websites that's used that are tools to help you and your children make their way to school. But the big point on this slide is that no scholarship or granted aid or financial assistance of any kind can be issued if you don't have an accurate annual FAFSA on file with the school of your choice or the numbers of school that you're looking to apply to and be accepted to. Okay. Just bear with me. All right. So there was a lot of talk about the differences with the predominantly white institutions, PWIs, as I call them, or the HBCUs and things of that nature. And even in that, there's a greater detail when you start talking what I'll call your PWI of the norm, or and say your elite PWI like Ivy League, etc. So when we look at applying to schools, what I like to try to tell people is you need to have an application priority. And applying to schools is like managing administrative duties for a job. You got to have a schedule. You got to have a calendar. You got to stick to it. Things can't be late. You must meet deadlines, because if you're late, you're automatically eliminated. But what we talk about here is I wanted to bring out a note of, let's say you have a child that aspires to attend, an Ivy League school, for example. I just wanted to give you some notes that they have additional financial requirements in addition to the FAFSA, okay? For every Ivy League school out there, several of them have a differing system. So each one of those you apply to, you have to do a different FAFSA type document that goes to them for some evaluation. They generally do not give merit scholarships at Ivy League institutions. Everything is based on financial aid. Now, of course, the calculations are different because the endowments are bigger and things of that nature. So whereas my FAFSA may say, whether I agree with them or not, that I can afford X to send my children to college, that Ivy League pick a school financial document may say, oh, will you qualify for assistance of Y because of how the numbers work, endowments and things of that nature. What's important for you and your child is to know that those applications are very in-depth. There's no overlap, and you're going to know what I mean by that as I get into these application priorities that I'm about to talk about in a minute. So they're all separate and they're very time consuming, very time consuming. So number one, if your child is really, really ready, go for it. But as I'm going to get into, I'm going to recommend going from the easiest to the hardest in terms of the application process to give yourself the greatest opportunity to have the greatest number of schools that your child has been accepted to, greatest number of merit scholarships on the table. And then the big thing we're talking about, all the local and regional and national money that you can apply for outside of the school that will go enhance that financial experience for the child, okay? So recommendation one, okay? We want to recommend starting with the Common Black College app. One, for all the advantages of HBCUs that both Troy and John talked about. But number two, it is just an easier, more streamlined application. It is cheaper. You're going to get the greatest bang for your buck, okay? When Jordan and Jaden were in school, it cost about $50 to apply to the Common Black College app. Now it's about 20 bucks. So they're making it easier. They're making it more financially friendly. And again, you apply. It's very simple application. You identify your top 4 schools. Your application automatically goes out to your identified schools. You'll see status on the remaining 54 schools, okay? You can submit applications to those as well. You just have to go into the system and manually request those schools. And we are talking HBCUs, so what I recommend to parents and the students is after you've given it a few weeks of being in the system, the schools that you're really interested in, you know, call the admissions office, make sure that they downloaded your application from the system, make them aware that it's in the system, and don't be shy about calling back and engaging with the personnel because you want to make sure that they have your application early. Sometimes merit money is on a time schedule. So what'll happen is an institution will have so many applicants. And if there's 100 applicants, you know, 40 of them qualified or in the range to receive some merit money, okay? And if there's time limits on the money in terms of awarding it and obligating that money, then some of it is going to go in the order of whose application has been received, processed, etc. So it's better to be early than late, and definitely you want to stay engaged with them to make sure that they're processing you. Now, not to be confused, but the next level is the common application. Not to be confused with the Common Black application, but the common application. So this is a platform in which you can apply to multiple schools that includes the various PWIs that Troy talked about, but also it includes a few of the HBCUs that prefer to be on this system. If I can name a few, I think Howard, Hampton, Spelman, just to name a few. Those I can think off the top of my head because we apply to those via this system. Now, the advantage to this system in the second slot of priority is that the core part of the application is the same for everybody. So the basic questions and answers, that's the core part of the application. You're going to build that one time and it's ready to go for everybody. So say you want to apply to Howard, Spelman, and Purdue. You got 3 colleges there, PWI, 2 HBCUs. I'm making this up just for the sake of the example. Each one of those institutions are going to have their institution-specific questions and documentation requirements that you have to provide. So on those, you do those separately. And when you submit your application, second half of your application, those will be specific to the schools in which you apply to. Unlike the Common Black College app, that $70 or $85, whatever it is in that range, up or down, you've got to pay that for every single application, you know. So if you're applying to 10 schools, that's going to probably come out to $850, for example. If you have certain financial circumstances, there are waivers to the fees that you can apply for. If you qualify that, I encourage you to do it. So a little less user-friendly, does allow for some duplicity, a little more information than the Common Black College app. Some of those Ivies are on there, and some of those things that I told you that they would want in addition to will be identified there. And then as I spoke about, Ivies and some others don't work in any system. You have to apply at the school site. Okay, so now that we've gone through that, one of the big things I focus on is outside scholarship. What do I mean by outside scholarship? That's a whole bunch of money sitting around your community that people don't think about it. There's no national commercial about it on TV or anything like that, but it is the money that you get from your doorstep out, as I like to speak. So this is what I call communal money, okay? So for example, this whole example here, and you'll see what I'm talking about in a few slides, deals with Prince George's County, Maryland. Within Prince George's County, Maryland, the way they do scholarship applications and issue scholarships for graduating seniors from high school is, one, you have to live within a county to be eligible, and then you apply from there, okay? The question is, how many of these can you apply for? So we had a good system here in Prince George's County in terms of utilizing the Pan-Hellenic organizations. And then also the guidance counselors at the high schools was very active in making scholarship information available, helping and teaching the parents and guiding them along the way, making Black college tours available for students, things of that nature. These things may exist in your community. What I'm telling you here is this is a guide for you to go out and seek those opportunities and learn. So if you're in the Seattle, Tacoma area, you know, for example, you might want to look up Panhandle and see what they're doing in terms of scholarships, things of that nature. Key to success within your child's high school: be engaged in that PTSO, PTA, get with that guidance counselor. That is your number one friend. If that guidance counselor is not already reaching out to you and you've got a sophomore, a junior, or a senior and engaging you and talking about going to college, what your child's goals are, where they might want to go, what's the best opportunities for them, then you need to engage those counselors and get them to pay more attention. Because the counselor can be the key to success or failure, for your child. Presentation says Kappa Leaguer, whether it's a young man in Kappa League, your son that may not be, and all of your daughters, of which I have two, that's going to be the key to success, okay? Outside of the counselors, like you have myself, John, Troy on the line tonight, and others involved, okay, network and seek help from those people, because everybody knows somebody else that may know something that you can access to get money. And from there, you build your base of scholarships that you want to apply for, your schedule, et cetera, et cetera. So I just gave this little screenshot right here to show you the full breadth of Pan-Hellenic organizations in Prince George's County, Maryland. And if you click on any one of those icons, there's 2 or 3 chapters within the local area. So by the time you get down and look at the 9 and you multiply the 9 by the 2, 3, or 4 chapters, that's 15 to 20 scholarship opportunities right there. So that's the way in which you have to think about this and try to maximize the opportunity. And this is just a start. Local businesses, churches, other community organizations, they're all giving away money. Well, not giving it away, allowing you compete, you and your student to compete for their funds, okay? So my children had a couple of counselors over the time. Miss Nelson, who was a member of Delta Sigma Theta, and who was also a member of their mother's chapter. She was very instrumental in getting them started. And then Miss Gardner expanded the program. By the time Miss Gardner started counseling us into Jaden's years, Jordan didn't benefit from that. She's given scholarship opportunities every other day. So Miss Gardner's issuing about 65 different scholarship opportunities. As parents, one thing I would advise is manage the children in the process. So one of the things that I did, and one of the things that I recommend is, hey, be on that email list with that counselor. Everything the child is getting, whether it's from the email, whether it's Naviance, or whatever your local school system platform is for getting college information or applying or whatever, you want to be there looking at that, because you want to help your student manage the schedule, manage deadlines, assist on, proofreading and other things to help them, present their best package, okay? So in this process, in my experience, we would receive all these opportunities. So what I'm showing you on these slides is how you will set up your matrix of various scholarships. So Jordan was with me, children were with me from her junior year on. And so she received about 6 of these scholarships, okay? And we didn't apply as many because we didn't know about as many. By the time Jaden was a senior, there was up to 65 of these opportunities. These next couple of slides, and you see like tentative due dates. These are the times around the year when these will be due. Now you're gonna have some challenges now with COVID. There's less funding available some places. There may not be some scholarships available this year that may have been available in 2019. But the point is, you gotta look, you gotta verify. You need to create your list. You need to create your schedule. This is a notional list of what we did here in Prince George's County. So this is about 42 of the opportunities based on Jaden's experience. She's the youngest. So as you can see, some of these, some of them you heard of, you see the fraternities, but all this stuff. Miss Utility District 1, that's the local utility company. Things the community theater giving away scholarships. All these different individuals, Buffalo Soldiers, Frederick Douglass Historical Society. All these things you would never, ever think of, okay? And newsflash, we may be applying to HBCUs. We look for Black money, white money, Latino money. Hey, any kind of frat money, any kind of sorority money, all money is good money when it comes to putting your child through school, right? Different elected official scholarships, like a Delegate 23B scholarship. And so you can see the diverse nature of all the different scholarships that might be available, in a particular place. Oh, one other note, when you look at those Panhandle and other types of scholarships, also look at whether or not those scholarships have renewable money. A lot of scholarships for high school seniors going into college, a lot of them are one-time shot. It's kind of a bridge to get, kids into school. But some of them, like we're on this last page, I see the Omega Sci-Fi scholarship. We have 2 Omega Sci-Fi chapters in Prince George's County. Their money is renewable. So that's a very important thing. So you look for those. If your child gets a scholarship on the first go round, then they're admitted to apply to receive that money each subsequent year, as long as they're in school and maintain a certain grade point average and other requirements, okay? Professional organization scholarships. At one time, I worked in the government as a subject matter expert for renewable energy. So one of the Black Energy Coalitions, they had a scholarship. My children ended up getting those, both of them. So it's all kinds of opportunities. Don't, turn a blind eye to any opportunity that's out there. So what's the key thing I want y'all to remember in all of this? The 2 biggest things. Duplicate this method for your area. I promise you, it will not fail you. I got a couple of other notes that I'll put with it at the end. Number 2, all money is good money, okay? And this screenshot here is just a collage of some of the scholarship award ceremonies that Jordan attended. This one on the far left is her doing AIDS research out in California. She aspires to be a doctor one day. Her and her sister actually do. And so all these opportunities are available for your children as well. And Jaden even exceeded Jordan's success by tripling the amount of scholarships that she received. And so if it will work for Jordan and Jaden, it will work for your Kappa League, your son, and your daughter too. So this completes the primary part of this presentation, just to kind of give you an outline as to application priorities, mandatory things that you have to do in the process, and just a methodology and an outlook to go out and look for certain monies in certain ways that you may not have thought about, and that may be a little less competitive than some of the traditional means that you may have on your mind at this time. At this time, Jordan and Jaden are on the line. If any of the students or any of the parents, have any questions that either I or they may answer for you at this time, I think Ms. Johnson left a little time for some question and answer here at the end of this presentation. Otherwise, this concludes my presentation, and thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thanks, Greg. You know what? We had a few questions pop up in the chat. Do you mind if I read those to you? Maybe you have some answers to them, or would you prefer? Read
them, and if I can't answer them, like all things in life, I will defer to my children.
Sure. Okay. So let me scroll through here.
Should I unshare the screen at this time so that you can pull those up?
No, I can just read them to you. That's fine.
Okay.
The first question was, senior here, is it too late to reply accepted into, I think it's Western Washington University?
Is it too late to do what?
Reply.
Apply to any of these applications here?
The question said reply, but maybe they meant apply. Yeah.
Okay. Well, what I would say is this. I know that it's not too late to apply. I'm gonna ask Jordan and Jaden to come on this because they know more about the whole early admittance and all that those kind of deadlines that I don't know by heart. But what I would say is that even if you decided you wanted to apply somewhere other than Western Washington or some other school, the worst that would happen is that you might have to push that application for a subsequent semester. But I don't think it's too late at this point because we're just at January 1st. I know a lot of people don't start even looking at merit money until like March of the year. Jordan and Jaden, can you guys unmute and weigh in on this topic a little bit?
So for applying, as long as you, for most universities, if you get your application in before, I would say February is a good time to even be considered for academic scholarships. You should be fine, but you need to be able to and be ready to either accept or decline the offer by May 1st. So the sooner you get it in, the better. The sooner you get it in, the more opportunities at money you have. For some universities, you only are considered for academic scholarships if you apply early admit. So I would call their Office of Recruitment, their undergraduate recruitment, and ask if they have that policy. I know Morgan State University, where me and Jordan attend, your best chance at money is applying early because the funding is first come, first serve. So I would say look into that. But in terms of just applying and possibly getting outside money to go, you should be fine. Just try to get it in before the end of this month.
Great. Thank you, Jaden. I appreciate that. There was another question. Do you guys have any advice for a student who is going to a 2-year college, then transferring to a 4-year university after completing their associate's degree?
Absolutely. And the rules are different. You have to look at the rules for your area, okay? The good thing about going to 2-year college or community college first, at least where we live here on the East Coast, I know in Virginia, we've lived on the Virginia side and the Maryland side, and most of those programs have partnerships with certain 4-year schools within the state. So what going to the community college does in a lot of cases, and you need to research your specific case, but what that does is that gives you the first 2 years you require of credits at a much lower cost of attendance. Maybe if you're staying at home still, you don't have housing costs and things of that nature. And you know, the credits, if it's a partner school, they transfer over without a lot of headache and things of that nature. So that actually is a good idea, especially from a financial standpoint. So like here in Maryland, you know, you can go to Prince George's Community College for 2 years, and then you can transfer to Bowie State, Morgan State, University of Maryland, or whoever. And whatever cost of attendance is for 4 years at the primary university, you know, that cost is significantly lower during the first 2 years of PG Community College, for example. So that may be how it works in Washington, but you definitely have to do some research on that university system, who accepts credits from who has partnerships with whom.
Thank you.
Jaden and Jordan, y'all have any additional comments on that one?
I would just say from a social aspect, because I know a lot of students feel like when they go the community college route that they're missing out. College is what you make it. So if you have to go to community college for financial reasons or personal reasons, just make sure that whenever you do get to your four-year university, don't get tied up in how much time you missed. Live in the present and immerse yourself in the campus and the culture, and just really enjoy it, because you are going to have less time on that campus than other people, but you're still that same age. You're still going for, all of these different achievements. You can be as involved as you want to be.
Okay, so
The only thing I would say was remain steadfast. Make sure that you're still working towards your goal, which is graduating from a four-year institution at the end of the day. So making sure that you don't get, like discouraged or caught up and, I would say the mental mind games that college plays on you, and just, actively preparing yourself and making sure you're pushing forward to achieve your goal.
So I have a comment on the back end of that. So that was Jaden speaking first and Jordan speaking second. So the backdrop behind Jordan, she's at work right now. So she works as an RA. So one of the things we encouraged in the program that I don't talk about in the brief, and maybe I should add this, Brother JJ, is the other ancillary activities you can get in that draw money. Now, Jordan and Jay, so for all the students out there, whatever your major is, right? Your particular institution may have some center of excellence or some scholarly program that's associated for that major for its top performers. So in the case of Morgan, they have a program called Ascend. And that's basically where they do their research. They partnership with Johns Hopkins, National Institutes of Health, NIH, etc. And they do laboratory work, research, things of that nature. That's a huge boost, because in addition to those 27 scholarships that those girls share, by being Ascend scholars, they receive 60% cost of attendance. So that comes in the form basically of a check. So literally they are considered state employees while they're in Ascend, and then also for the housing part, Jordan's an RA as well. Now, COVID canceled Jaden's chances to be an RA, but it's a pretty good deal when you look at, hey, housing and meal plan is maybe $5,000–6,000 a semester. Well, by Jordan being a resident assistant or an RA, she gets a single suite. When you get to be a junior or senior, maybe you're at one of the big apartment complexes. So Jordan is, downtown Baltimore, single apartment, getting paid to do it while she goes to school. So all of those other programs that you can tap into as well, any kind of ancillary work programs. In fact, at this time, Jaden, can you tell them and Jordan a little bit about also how that dovetails into your various internships, shadowing, and all the different things you guys are doing, like with Johns Hopkins and things of that nature?
So for me, I don't, like my dad said, I'm not an RA, but when I was on campus, I was doing campus tours as a way to get extra income. Those through Morgan come through as grants. So they give you a grant at the beginning of the semester, and you give tours on like the weekends and during your free time, depending on your class schedule. And you can get up to thousands of dollars in grants for doing that. And like you do the open houses, and like how you all attend open houses for universities, those people showing you around campus and giving the hype of the university, those people are getting paid to do that. So that's one stream of income. I also work for Johns Hopkins, where I got paid bi-weekly to do research in neuroscience. I studied aging of the brain, stroke, and Alzheimer's. So that's another form of income for me. But I will say the more streams of income you can get outside of the university, the better, because the university can only give you so much. You can only have so many contracts. I believe it's 2 contracts. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jordan, but you can only have 2 contracts at once at most universities. So if you say are an RA and then you're in Ascend, those are 2 university contracts. I can't make any more money from the university. So then it's like, okay, well, I'm going to go apply to Johns Hopkins. They pay me well. For a college student, an extra $1,000 a month is great because that's enough to feed you, enough for you to have your extracurricular activities, and enough to save or to contribute to your education if necessary. So those are my streams of income that I use to compensate for not being an RA. And I know it sounds like a lot, but it's really just giving a few extra days a month, maybe 7 days out of the month to doing tours and, a few hours a week, maybe 10 hours a week doing research. So you can make it work if you want it to work.
For me, as my dad mentioned, I'm a resident assistant. I'm in one of the residence hall at Morgan State University right now. So I get compensated once a month by the Office of Residence Life and Housing. I'm also an Ascend ambassador now. I graduated out of the program. I was a scholar like Jaden, but now I'm an ambassador. So I'm pretty much mentoring new young budding researchers into creating their own research projects like I did when I was a sophomore. So that's an additional 1,000 or something a month. And then as far as like internships go, so Ascend is it's a very unique program. A lot of HBCUs should have it. So it's actually under the NIH Build grant. So National Institutes of Health funds different universities across the United States in order to fund students, fund African-American and people of color to actually be a part of the biomedical research field. So the National Institutes of Health technically fund Ascend, but within Ascend, they require you to get a summer internship every month. So that summer internship can pay you as well. So you can be getting paid from Ascend, but also getting paid at your internship. So that's what Jaden's referring to. Like she had an internship at Johns Hopkins, but she was still working with Ascend. I did an internship at Johns Hopkins, but I looked at, I did HIV research and just how GLUT1 affects the brain. So I did neuroscience as well. I guess we were just stuck in neuroscience. I don't know. Yeah, and then I also conducted my own research project at Northeastern University in Boston. And that looked at how the effects and like uses of marijuana and the co-use of tobacco impacts the brain. So another neuroscience project. Yeah. It's a lot of opportunities here at Morgan. I don't know if any of you guys are interested in coming to Morgan or anything like that. But Morgan has blessed me and given me so many opportunities that I never thought possible for myself. And I truthfully didn't want to come here at first. So you can thank Mr. Dawson for that. But yeah, there's plenty of money everywhere. You just have to be willing to do the work. I'm a big proponent of getting the work done. You can ask Jaden. I'm always on her about making sure she's handling her business and taking care of what needs to be done. So if you are willing to sacrifice and, take the active steps to work hard and seek your goals, then you can do it. Every university is different. Obviously, Ascend is not at every school. You may not be interested in research. You may be a business major or what have you, but there are opportunities. You just have to be willing to step outside of your comfort zone, network, and be dedicated.
And ladies and gentlemen, it's also a building process too. So I kind of took you through the matriculation of these children from being seniors in high school to where they're at now. So Jordan's a senior getting ready to graduate. Jaden's a sophomore, so she's still going through it. So like the next phase for us is, since they're in the sciences, what happens in graduate school. So now I have to take this whole program and then I have to apply it to where's the graduate money, which may be, a bit more arduous. But the point is, man, everything that the kids do, and this is really for the kids, don't do like me in school. Now, they more like the mother, okay? Outstanding students. I think Troy and I was standing on the block twirling a cane or something too much. So we didn't have that kind of academic success, at least I did, the kind of academic success they did. But what you'll learn is that take it seriously and build on it because it's a continued evolution. When you leave there, there will be grad school, there will be, professional opportunities. I'll share with you my first job as a civilian with the Navy, because I didn't have that focus and that rigor. Now, I played football in school. I was in ROTC, so I had some distractions. You know, and I graduated and I did well enough. But my first job, I started like 2 levels below my peers because I didn't have, you know, that grade point average to come in, you know, with the higher group. But what I did do was I parlayed that into being a little humble, coming in 2 levels below and say, hey, will you extend my program out extra year or 2 so that I could catch up, you know? And so with the ROTC thing leading to Reserve, National Guard, part-time career, and, you know, civilian career where, you know, I'm eligible to retire in a year or so. It's good. And talking about that HBCU thing, I had no ROTC on my mind when I got to Tuskegee. I got there to play football, and the football coach said, everybody gonna be in ROTC for a year. So, you know, 20, 30 years and 2 retirements later, here you are just from listening to that guidance from a concerned person, you know, within that HBCU construct that's giving you some information that you may not understand why at the time, but just following that guidance will help you in the long run. So I hope this has been beneficial to everyone. Was there a next question, Amelia?
Yeah, there's 2 more questions I see in the chat.
Okay.
The next one is there a specific place or source for looking for these scholarships? Or are they all based on your parents' network?
So part of what I was telling you in the brief, there's not a specific place. Every one of those scholarships that I showed you, they come from a different organization, a different place. Now, what might happen when I talked about the guidance counselor, if you got good guidance counselors in your school that are really working toward getting kids in college, they're gonna have a bead on this. They're gonna send you them applications, and all you got to do is fill them out, okay? And you gotta pay attention to detail. I mean, it really is a competition. Okay, I'm gonna share something with the kids because I know y'all don't think us parents are the coolest and all of that all the time. Work with your parents, listen to your parents. They've been to school before. Allow them to help with the process. If nothing else, allow them to be a second set of eyes on your application, to be able to give you some guidance, to be able to catch some mistakes you may have made, because it's a lot of work. You will get tired of looking at this stuff, okay? And once you are looking at it so much yourself, you need a second set of eyes on your work to make sure that you don't submit anything with, you know, mistakes in it and obvious errors. So that's very important. Also listen to your parents because they have actually done this. You know, I laugh because Jordan shared not actually wanting to go to Morgan originally. I limited Jordan's choices because of the finances involved, okay? But I also had some confidence that Morgan, whose president is a Tuskegee grad, by the way, would provide her and her sister, you know, with a great educational experience. So sometimes also you have to work with your parents to figure out what's going to be the optimal situation. And just because you like it or you saw it on TV is never a good enough answer. You know, get with your parents. Parents, I give you a piece of advice. Have real talk with your children about the financial landscape concerning this school thing. You know, be real with them about what it is and what needs to happen. I'm gonna assume everybody wants to get out of this undergrad thing debt free. So this is what this whole presentation is geared toward. I know if my children are lucky and successful, they'll have 4 years of medical school coming right after this undergrad thing. So I wanted them to have no debt. If Jordan would have gone to school Y that she wanted to go to, I knew she was going to have some debt because they weren't giving her the money or had the opportunities for her to get the funding that she was able to get at Morgan. I'll say it, A&T was her first choice. We love A&T. We go to plenty homecomings at A&T. A&T not giving away, giving out a lot of merit money out of state. Now, if you're a North Carolina resident, A&T is the place to be. But if you're outside, okay. So something else I did not mention, but I just thought about. This doesn't so much apply to y'all in Washington State because there's no HBCUs in Washington State that I know of and things of that nature. But if you were residents of another state, you also want to look at state institution versus out of state, so on and so forth. And basically, man, you want to sit down with a financial matrix of each school and see what your true cost of attendance is. And I don't know if that'll be beneficial to put in a future presentation, just maybe a snapshot of what Jordan's look like. Because she applied to and got into like 36 schools. So that was a big matrix. And she got some level of merit money from all 36. So you don't want to just wing the decision. You kind of want to do some analysis. And parents, it's some work. It's some work. Any more questions, Amelia?
Yeah, there's one more question here. Do you know if colleges frown on students taking a gap year?
I don't have any experience with that.
No, they don't. They
They
don't. A gap year is okay. Like, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. You're, as long as it's with like your transcripts are within the time frame that they're requiring. Usually it's like within the last 5 years, usually what applications say. But if you need to take a gap year, if you need to make some money, if you need a mental health break, please do so. Like, you can't operate, you can't function if you aren't sound spiritually, mentally, physically. So if you feel like it's necessary for you to take a gap year, do that. But I will say, don't sit around and waste a gap year. Still work, still make sure you are putting money away, still make sure you're filling out applications, make sure you're staying on top of the studies that you did learn so that you do not come into college blindsided, because they will have you take remedial classes and you will be behind your peers if you aren't at the academic level that everybody else is. That's usually what happens during freshman orientation, is you will take a series of tests in each subject and they will kind of determine where you are at your university, where you fit, what classes you need to take, what path you need to take. So just make sure if you are going to take a gap year, don't become lackadaisical and lazy. Just make sure you're actually doing what you need to do, but also taking care of yourself as well, because you are important as well.
I definitely agree. It's not frowned upon at all. Colleges will take your money regardless. That's for starters. They want you there, especially if you're like bright and, they can see you as being a potential like big alum that's going to give back to the university. They want you there regardless. And like Jordan said, your brain is very malleable, especially at the age that we are. So if you take an entire year off, you lose some things. Like, there are adults and you see, like, I know all the like teens on here are thinking like when they were kids and you was learning how to like multiply and do algebra and your parents was like, I can't help you with this. Like, I don't know what this is. Even though they learned it, it's like out of sight, out of mind. You learn new skills and you adapt. So just keep in mind, if you know it's more difficult for you to keep up already, you may want to continue. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to go to school when you're not ready and you're not prepared. And then you have to withdraw from the university or get a bad GPA your first semester. You want to come in as strong as possible. Even for me, and Jordan can attest this, when I came and took my placement test, for my math, I left my calculator on my sister's bed. I was in there with 18 sheets of paper. I'm like, they can't put me in remedial math class just because I don't have a calculator. Like, it's just about being diligent and like believing in yourself. And sure enough, I didn't get put in remedial math classes. I made it through, with my fingers and the paper and everything else. But you just have to really care and invest in your education, and your education is what you make of it. What you pour into it, it will pour back into you. It may not always feel that way. You may feel like sometimes it's kicking you when you're down at your lowest point. And, I know a lot of students have a really difficult senior year. My senior year was very hard on me emotionally, but going to college was the best thing I ever did for myself emotionally. It strengthened my work ethic. It strengthened me emotionally. I met people who molded me into an even better person. So don't think because you may not feel like you're strong right now that you're not strong enough to go to college. Because I know people say like, college isn't the standard. It don't take much. All it takes is dedication and effort. So you don't have to be at your best. You don't have to be the zenith of students. You don't have to be, the 4.6 student in high school who took 18 million AP classes. You don't have to be that. Just be you and do the best that you can. And if you give everything that you have, and maybe something doesn't come to you, it maybe was not meant for you at that time, but that doesn't mean that it's never going to be meant for you. So just stay inspired and continue to push, even if you have to take a gap year.
Great. Thank you, Jaden and Jordan. You're offering so much great advice and helping, so many people. Just we really appreciate it. Giving practical, real life experiences. It's great. Well, there was one last question in the chat. It said, "What advice do you have for approaching the essays required in scholarship applications?"
My advice. Okay, so I'll share with you our process. Okay. So first of all, there are no standard essays per se. And I want the girls to jump in at any point that I start to go off the rails with this part of the talk or my memory gets feeble. So in the case of Jordan, first essay you're going to have a standard essay requirement for every school application. So for example, even if you go on and do the Black Common App, right? The initial application process is easy, but then they do come back around because they'll have other qualifying documents that you're going to need to submit once they give you, I don't know, a tentative acceptance. What do they call it, sweetheart?
You said it
They'll
right.
come back and say,
Deferred acceptance.
say that again.
You're talking about deferred acceptance?
Yeah. So then they'll come back to you in the case of like the Black College Common App schools, and they'll say, okay, here are our questions. Here's the documentation we want you to submit. No school, two schools have the same question. Also, questions are going to vary based on your major. Okay. So there's no universal advice, but the advice I would give you is this about it. Start as early as you can preparing essays. One of the most common ones that I saw when the girls were going through their process was they like to get an autobiography on you. When you do that autobiography of yourself, you need to be quite descriptive, because what they're using that for is to see who you are. Who is this person? Where did your life start? So I always tell people, don't start with, I'm a senior at such and such high school. You want to start with, and I mean, my kids looked at me crazy the first time. Hi, my name is so-and-so. I was born on at this place and time to these parents, and so on and so forth. You want to give them in depth. Every essay should have a logical following, okay? You know, go back to your English class and your English book in terms of how you build an essay. You know, your introduction, your body, your ending, the themes. Your life story needs to flow. If they're asking a question about your experience doing something or something within your proposed major, you know, you need to address that in a logical manner.
Can I interject,
Logically,
Dad?
say again, back.
I said, can I interject?
Yes.
So for a lot of the college essays, you're gonna get 500 words or less. You're gonna get a page. There is no like it's gonna be one long paragraph. So yes, you want to be grammatically correct, and you do want it to follow in a logical order. But you're gonna be limited. What you're gonna find when you're writing essays for colleges is that you have to fit a lot of impactful information into a very short thing. And honestly, my dad had me apply to like 50 scholarships. At one point I came home every day and I was like, maybe if I just walk a little bit slower from my car in the house, like I just have a second to breathe because he's gonna ask me when this essay is done. Like I had to do 50, and then I also applied to Ivy League schools. Ivy League schools are not on the Common App. So I had to do separate essays for I had to do 3 essays per Ivy League. There are 8 Ivy Leagues, I think, that I applied to. So I had to do 24 essays just for Ivy Leagues. Then I had the 50 to do for scholarships. I just threw away my old Google Doc, new email completely. Don't even want to go back. PTSD. But a lot of it is trying to be impactful. Make sure you're saying things with purpose. Make sure you're saying things that are actually going to draw people in. People don't need to know about every single accolade that you have. They need to know that you're well-rounded. So maybe tell them about your biggest achievements, you know, things that you're president of. They don't need to know that you're the member of, you know, just a general body member of, you know, the drama club. If you're the president of the drama club, put that in there. You know, with that autobiography, a lot of people, well, it's called a personal statement. So your personal statement does go in chronological order, and you should kind of start it, like my dad said, introducing yourself, where you were born. The middle should kind of be your character development portion, you know, like think of it like a story, that big thing in your life that transformed you into who you are now. Tell us about that, you know. Then it should kind of close out with where you want to be, who you are, what you've been through, where you want to be. I'm applying to this university as this major. If you want a minor, then these minors. And, you know, I aspire, for me on my applications, it was, I want to be a general surgeon. You know, I want to do research. I want to build myself through these forums. So that's how I would build a personal statement. But for essays and just the prompt, make sure you're answering the prompt in however many words it says. Sometimes you just got to start writing, and because you don't have much left in the tank, because you're tired and you're drained. But I promise you, the more that you look at it after you start just free flowing writing, you'll be able to go back to it and make it a stronger essay every time that you look at it. So by the time your parent, which my dad did, which I'm grateful for, is he edited all of my papers. So by the time your parent looks at it, mine got better and better over time. At first, you know, my first essay, I sent my dad, he's like, Jaden, what is this? Like, you didn't even try. And I'm like, Dad, I'm trying. Like, I'm so tired. But like, by the time it was like January, February, March, he's like, this is really good. I didn't have to edit anything. Like, it's really good. Believe in yourself, start writing. The more you train yourself and the more you do, the better you'll get. But just answer the prompt. Don't think about it too much. Just do it. Just do it. And once you come back to it and revisit it, you'll be good. And if you have a supportive parent and you have a supportive, you know, village and network, send it to them. They'll give you their critiques. You'll be able to edit and go back, but write it, move on to the next one, write it, move on to the next one, because you'll get the feedback and you'll be able to better yourself. But don't focus on the personal statement too long. Don't focus on any essay for too long. Most of these aren't going to be more than 500 to 1,000 words. So you should really only spend a day, 2 days max on one essay. Because if you are really diligent about getting scholarships and getting applications in, there's going to be a lot of work. So you're going to want to plow through it as fast as possible.
Can I also say something real quick, Dad?
Yeah, go ahead.
If we're being honest, there's going to be a pool of applicants who have the similar stories, like, oh, I did this one thing when I was 10 and like it was great, and like this is what made me who I am. I think the biggest thing for me about getting scholarships like on my behalf um, was how is my story and how is my journey going to stand out in the crowd amongst all these applications, amongst all these people, all these competitive people. Like, oh yeah, I'm smart, but like somebody might have a 4.0, or they might have this, or they might have more, you know, like not campus involvement. That's a more college thing, but like school involvement or whatever. So just making sure that you know how to brand yourself. That's what I'm trying to say. Know how to brand yourself, know how to talk about yourself, and in a way that's palatable to your audience. Don't brag, don't be, self-enthralled, but make sure you are like, advertising yourself. You want to advertise yourself, because that's when people look at your application and they're like, wow, like she's a really great person, or like she's a really good candidate, or I would like to have an interview with this person. That way, like you're teasing them. You're trying to give them a piece of who you are in this short 500-word essay, but make sure you're, like Jaden said, answering the question. I feel like that was my biggest issue. Like I wanted to say all these things, but like all these things had nothing to do with what the prompt was really asking me, and it didn't make a lot of sense. So make sure you know how to brand yourself, and make sure you are, diligently answering the question.
And for you families that have like brothers and sisters and one older than, the benefit, Jaden obviously benefited from Jordan's experience. So as you go through it, so some of you all that have a younger brother and sister, you and your parents get to duplicate this for them. So we have a running joke in our family. Jordan gets the stuff first because she's the oldest, but then Jaden gets the better outcome because she gets to learn from all of Jordan's mistakes. So you keep that in mind in families. This talk made me think about something that I don't want to lose the thought on. What were we just talking about? Jesus, I may have to come back to it.
Essays.
I'm getting old and feeble-minded.
The essay.
Oh, yes. Recommendation letters. I did not go over recommendations. Your life from this point forward will be littered with the need for recommendations. Getting your recommendations is a process. You cannot get a recommendation if you never talk to your teacher, your counselor, the people that are the credible folks that can do college recommendations on your behalf. Oftentimes, recommendations have to be on your high school letterhead, with official signature. Start working with your high school staff and your counseling staff now on your recommendations. Okay.
That's very important, guys.
Make them aware of what your intent is, where you think you want to go to school, what do you think your major wants to be. Allow them to be able to articulate who you are and what you're about in the best light. Try to be humble and accommodating with those folks that you're going to need for those things. This process will get on your nerves, okay? But you have got to take it in stride. You've got to take it as this is something you're doing to better yourself for your future, for your family's future. And you got to try to stay positive, even when it gets hard.